What's up, everybody? Welcome to Trail Tales. My name is Kyle O'Grady. I am a thru hiker. I am a peak bagger. I am a huge hiking nerd. You all know that so well at this point. This is going to be a great episode. I have a conversation with Jacob Younger, who I actually met on the Northville Placid Trail. He happened to come rolling up with his friend Tyler to a shelter that Flossie and I were staying at, and well, I will save the rest of the story for the episode because we talk about it a little bit. Jacob has done a ton of stuff. We talk a little bit about Pennsylvania and all the random little thru hikes they have over there, which is not something you think about when you think of Pennsylvania. We talk about his newly formed gear company called Riggin' It Gear, which is really, really cool. It's always cool for me to hear a story of somebody just kind of like taking a jump into the deep end of like trying to start a new business like that. So I think that's really cool. And he also hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2019. So he's just a big old hiking nerd just like me. And we kind of just go all over the place. So Jacob, when you hear this, I would love to do another episode sometime soon. And thank you so much for coming on. Folks, we're going to keep this intro short. I feel like I say that pretty much every single week at this point. But I appreciate you listening. Thank you for being here, and maybe leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Actually, definitely do that if you want to help support the show. That's it, folks. Let's get into the episode number 104 with Jacob Younger. All right, episode number 104, I think it is, of Trail Tales. I am here with Jacob Younger, who also has a trail name. It's Buckeye, and he's done a bunch of stuff. He's done the AT. He's done. I shouldn't even be the one explaining this. I should let him speak for himself. So, Jacob, thank you so much for taking the time to do this stupid podcast. I really appreciate it, and I am stoked to have you on.
Thanks. It's good to talk to you again and not be soaking wet this time.
Yes, that is very true. We'll get into that. In just a second, the story of how we met each other. But first, why don't you give a actual introduction, unlike the one I just tried to do there. Tell people who you are, what you've hiked, talk about the gear, talk about all that stuff. Yeah.
Word. Yeah. So I'm Jacob Younger, trail name Buckeye. The biggest hike I've done is I did the Appalachian Trail in 2019, January 1st to July 4th.
Oh shit. I didn't know you started on January 1st. That's gnarly.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was
I'll
cold.
ask you some questions about that in a few minutes for sure.
Other than that, I've hiked the Loyal Sock Trail, the Black Forest Trail, the Loggers Path. That's like the Pennsylvania Triple Crown, I feel like, of backpacking loops. I've done the Salcantay Trek in Peru. It's like a 50-mile trail to Machu Picchu. That was a really fun adventure. And then most recently, the biggest thru hike I've done is the Northville Placid Trail. That's where me and Kyle actually met.
Yes, it was. It was a good time. Damn, okay. I should have done a little bit more homework, to be honest, because I guess I kind of knew about a lot of the random trails in Pennsylvania. We've got a lot to talk about. We'll get into it more later, but talk about your gear company too.
Yeah, so when I was getting ready to hike the Appalachian Trail, it was kind of a goal of mine for a while. I think that's the case for a lot of people. And then when I'd finally settled down on a date or a time frame that I was thinking about doing it, couldn't wait to get started. And in my consumption of YouTube videos and, reading ultralight hiker books and stuff, I came across like the whole concept of making your own gear as a way to kind of lighten your pack for not as much money, which I think if I look back at it, I probably spent more money on the gear, like with materials and testing and all that. But it wasn't upfront as much.
It was more fun though, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and it was something to do, while I was waiting to hike the trail because I was really anxious to get going. I was dying, doing the 9-to-5 thing, and like it was something that was really fun for me to, feel like I was preparing and getting ready for the trail. I started with a quilt, like a synthetic, like a summer quilt. I saw Backcountry Banter on YouTube. He does a really good video of how to build one of those. And the way he like presented it, I was like, I could definitely do that. Like, and then so my mom told me how to, get the sewing machine going, how to thread the needle and do a straight, go back and forth, all that. And then I was kind of from there, just, messing with things and trying stuff for myself. So I had made, like fanny packs, backpacks, rain pants, rain mitts, didn't make a tarp because I was afraid that I would screw that up and I would get wet because of that. So I had a decent amount of homemade gear that I brought when I started the trail. And I really enjoyed like making this stuff because like I was working as an engineer, designing stuff, like water, like wastewater treatment, not wastewater, like water runoff treatment kind of stuff. But it kind of sucked to like design stuff and then go tell another guy, okay, here's what you build it, and I wasn't creating anything. So it was really cool to like, on this journey of sewing gear to like really be able to make good looking stuff and be proud of it. Because when I started, it was really horrible. I would always be impatient and rush through things, have zigzag stitches and all, and tensioning and all that.
Well, that's why that's one of the reasons why I invited you on the show, because I've always been curious about the people who like start making their own gear. And I guess to be clear to everybody listening, it's called rigging it, right?
Yeah, rigging it gear or rig.
It's in, I guess if I just butcher this, then please cut me off, but it's not like a full-fledged thing yet,
No,
right?
yet.
You're still kind of just I don't really know exactly what you're doing yet, but it's not like I'm trying to say this without like sounding like offending you.
I still have a day job.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason I invited you on the show or one of the reasons anyways, is because I just think it's cool to I'm curious to learn about someone who's kind of like taking that plunge into making their own gear. And it's like I could invite someone who works for like a company or something like that on the show and have them talk about it, which I kind of want to do, and I probably will do at some point. But this is more of like a again, I'm fucking this up, but it's just like one guy kind of like learning the ropes. It's kind of what it seems like to me, at least. Is that accurate?
So like I didn't get a lot of people that design for these companies, have like an apparel design degree or something, or been trained in pattern making and stuff. And I'm pretty much starting from square one, just learning from YouTube and just using cardboard for my tracing shapes and stuff. And so yeah, we're building up. We have some designs and stuff we're going to try to run a Kickstarter eventually on, so that's what I'm working on. But I also still sell a lot of other stuff for myself. It's really empowering to be out there in the woods facing the elements, doing something that most people would be scared to do, is go on a backpacking trip or whatever. And then the next level of all this stuff I made. So if it fails, like this, there's the responsibility there.
There's no customer service to complain to if you fuck it up.
Exactly.
That's cool. And just for the record, I've like never used any of his gear, so it's not like it's probably pretty clear to everybody listening, but I'm not like endorsing like the gear company or whatever. But just for the one guy who's listening that thinks I'm like getting paid for this shit, that's not what's happening. I just think it's cool because, like, I'll be honest, I've never really had a desire to make my own gear, but every time I've like heard about stories of people who have, there's always like a bunch of questions that go through my head. So I think we'll have a good chat about that in a little bit. But first, I kind of wanted to go through the story of how we met each other, because it's like it's kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
So everybody listening, hopefully you've heard my Northville Placid Trail episode, which would have been back in like October that it came out, probably. I have no idea what number it was. But in that episode, or if you watch the video on YouTube, you probably know that it rained a lot and shit. Part of the hike, a lot of the hike wasn't super great. And it's funny because I met Jacob and oh man, I can't remember his name. What was your buddy's name
Tyler.
again? Tyler,
yeah.
Tyler Hershey, is that what it is?
Yeah.
I follow him on Instagram.
I call him Hershey, so.
Hershey, okay. Well, anyways, I met these two guys, or Flossie and I met these two guys right when we were at like the fucking, like the thick of the shitty weather, basically. I think it was like our third night or fourth night maybe, and it was the day that like shit had really kind of started to hit the fan in terms of weather. And so we had hiked through rain all day, and we got to this lean-to, I think it was West Canada Creek lean-to or something like that, in West Canada Lakes, which is one of the most remote parts of the Adirondacks. I mean, that is one of the most remote parts of the entire state of New York, for that matter. Like, you're way the fuck out there. And so we didn't really expect to see anybody. And so you guys came rolling in like just before dark, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And I mean, not that we were like, oh, like we don't want to share the lean-to or whatever, but like, I'm sure you've had experiences too, where like you have the lean-to kind of locked down and then somebody else shows up and you're like, oh, I got to move my shit. Like, it wasn't the end of the world, but it was just kind of like that deal. I think Flossie was already asleep. And then naturally the next thing in my head was like, okay, hopefully these guys aren't like weird as shit, because we're like we're stuck together like way out here. And like, I did not think we'd see anybody. And pretty quickly I realized, I was like, okay, we're definitely going to get along with these guys, because they're basically the same vibe as we had going on. So that worked out, but I guess we pretty much just went to bed anyways, but that was kind of funny. And then the funniest thing for me, which I don't even know if you remember this, but the funniest thing for me, and Flossie still kind of gives me shit for this sometimes, is the next morning, because you guys rolled up like it was just after dark. So like you couldn't really see us. And I think it was, I can't remember which one of you made the comment about like, oh, they don't tell you about this on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
Was that you?
No, I think that was Hershey.
That was Hershey. Okay. Well, we were just kind of complaining and just small talk about the weather and how much it sucked to hike in the rain or whatever. And Hershey made a comment. I guess I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something like, oh, you know, they don't tell you about the weather like this on YouTube or something like that. Just a joke like that. And obviously I wasn't going to like say anything, because I feel like if you're like being like, oh yeah, well I have a YouTube channel like that, I just sound like a fucking prick, obviously. And I wasn't trying to do that. So, you know, it was a funny joke. So I just kind of laughed it off or whatever. And then the next morning, once the sun came up and once we started to wake up and shit, he recognized me from the YouTube channel. And this is the thing Flossie gives me shit about, because he said, hey, are you Kyle Hates Backpacking?
I know.
Instead of Kyle Hates
so
hiking.
Funny.
And we both thought that was
for that too.
We both thought that was really funny. So it was a wholesome experience all around though. And not gonna lie, it kind of like lifted at least my spirits, because we were in the thick of it at that point, and so it was just good we didn't really interact with many hikers on that trail just because there's not that many people on it. So it was a nice little change of pace. So yeah, that's the story of how we met. I don't think I left out any. I don't think I spared any details there. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm glad. All right, so I'm glad when you said like when we showed up, you were like, "Oh man, there's people here." Because right when I saw your backpacks hanging, I was like, because the way that section worked out is we had passed like two other lean-tos.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Nah, dude, like we're in it already. Let's push let's get to the next one. Like we can do this." And I saw your backpacks and I was like, damn it. And I said it pretty loud and I was like, oh, they probably heard that.
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it.
Oh, that's good. We shuffling. And it's funny because like my friend Hershey's like, he's all about the Facebook groups and stuff and research, and he was going crazy researching it. I didn't really research the trail that much at all. I was like, whatever, I'll just show up and hike. Because I a little more experience than him, I guess. But he was like, He had followed you on YouTube. I didn't know about your YouTube. I'd listened to this podcast before, but I didn't realize I'd never followed your YouTube. And he's like, dude, I think Kyle Hates Hiking is coming to the trail, because I think he had seen you.
He mentioned this actually, yeah.
Yeah, he had like seen you asking about some water source or something. He's like, dude, we might meet him. And I was like, dude, you didn't even recognize him when we got there. You didn't recognize you till the morning.
I mean, to be fair, it was like dark, and
it was.
I don't think I really stayed up much longer after you guys were there. Flossie was already asleep, I think.
Yeah,
but
he was in the corner. I was like, that was funny.
Yeah, it was funny. That's so funny. And I remember like, well, actually, I got a bunch of thoughts there on what you said. So, like, first of all, for people listening, what he meant by, like, there was a bunch of lean-tos they passed, he doesn't mean, like, earlier in the day, he means like pretty like a bunch of lean-tos pretty close to the one we stayed
mile.
at. There's like a bunch of lean-tos
mile.
within like a mile or two there. So like they could have stopped at one of the other ones and probably had one by themselves, but they kept going. And it was kind of funny because we basically did the opposite of what you just said. We were planning on going past that lean-to and staying at one of the other ones, a mile ahead or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we were just feeling lazy and we just stopped at the first one that we found basically. Our reasoning being, we were like, oh, okay, we know this one's empty, so like, why risk it? Not that it mattered. It's just 8-person lean-to. There's 4 of us in there. Not a big deal at all. But I guess you tend to take up a lot of space when there's 4 like soaking wet. Yeah, dude,
yeah.
Soaking wet hikers in there.
We hadn't camped with we'd seen a couple, I guess, northbounders, but we didn't camp with anybody. We didn't even talk to anybody. So I wasn't even thinking about like that we would have to share a shelter.
Yeah. I don't think we did, except for that night. There was I'm trying to think. The whole trail's a blur. There's our very first night. There were some people at the same campsite, but we didn't stay in the shelter. So I think that was the only time we stayed at shelter. Because I mean, it's not as people have probably heard me say 1,000 times at this point. It's not a super like popular trail. It's not like nobody's hiking it, but it's not like super popular. But it was all right. How was the rest of the hike after we kind of, because I guess that's another thing I should mention is you guys were going southbound and we were going northbound.
Yeah. So
it was like 2 ships passing in the night basically. So we never saw you again after that night. How was the rest of your hike there?
It was good. We had the rain continued the next day, and like I was getting beat up by it. I was like, I just was hating. I was like, why are we doing this?
It sucks.
Like, I hate the rain.
It was shit. Yeah.
I wasn't wearing
I
didn't bring rain pants. Yeah, like if I had worn rain pants, I probably would have been a lot more happy. But I didn't have them. I was just wearing shorts, and it was like I don't know. It was in the 40s, I think, and raining. Like it sucked. And we went to that restaurant afterwards because I was like, me and Hershey were kind of like both like hinting at the idea that maybe we should stay at there's like a motel there.
Yeah.
And we were like, all right, so we had that as our goal, and like we powered through, and then we were like, all right, let's just eat dinner at the restaurant and then we'll go get a motel. And like the owner was like gone and we couldn't like get a hold of them, like, and so we couldn't stay at the motel.
That's some small town shit right there. Like,
oh yeah,
they're just gone. Like their business is just like sitting there, and they're just not even open.
And like the one lady from the restaurant was like, "Oh, I'll call him," but they didn't pick up or whatever. So we like went like 100 feet into the woods and just like set up off the road. I was like,
oh nice.
Like I'm not hiking anymore today.
That's some hiker trash shit.
It's probably a violation of some camping rules, but I was like, oh, I don't care, whatever. But yeah, and then the weather got nicer after that, and we did like a 20-some mile day, and then finished with like 11. But yeah, it was really fun. It was great to be with my buddy on his like first. We'd done like a 60-mile trail before, but like first week in the woods, and he was really happy to finish. Yeah,
that's actually pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie, you guys were in better spirits than we were. I thought, at least, on that, when we met. I remember you guys rolled up, and maybe just because you're so excited to finally make it to camp or whatever, but you guys like seemed pretty stoked. Soaked
I think
and
we were just
stoked,
happy to,
but
yeah, exactly. We were just happy to be there. I think like if you tracked my mental, like if you'd met me like 2 hours earlier, I would have been in a totally different mood. Like that day like wore me down, and like I think the decision to hike the extra mile, I felt really good about myself. I was like, yeah, you're doing the right thing. Way to push it. So like I was starting to feel good about myself.
Yeah. And you must have obviously knew you were close too. So
yeah. So that like helped a lot. And I was just so happy to be like not getting rained on. So, and it was cool to meet other people that hike the AT. Like I don't really meet too many people that have hiked the trail. Yeah. So it's always good to kind of, you can like instantly relate to somebody who's done that.
For sure.
So that's good.
For sure. You hiked in 2019, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Was that like how much like backpacking experience did you have before your AT through hike?
I'd done a bunch of weekend trips, a bunch of overnights, just camping whenever I could. The longest trail I did before that was I hiked from Harper's Ferry in West Virginia to Duncannon on the Appalachian Trail. So it's like 120 some miles. So that was like a week-long trip I had done, and I loved it. I loved meeting the other hikers and stuff, and that's when I was like, yeah, we're definitely gonna do this one. And then like I did the other longest trail I did before that was the Loyalsock Trail in Pennsylvania. It's like 60 miles, and that's a really cool trail. I love that one.
So you had like a decent amount of experience before you hit the AT. Then you weren't one of those people that would just like my friend Flossie. He had never backpacked before in his life, and then he found it. Like I know like this happens to lots of people. So like it's not like it's rare by any means, but like it's still just that shit fucking blows my mind. Like I can't even
I have a ton
imagine.
of respect for the people that do that. You meet characters like that all the time on the trail. That it's like they don't know what they're doing. They have like crazy heavy gear, and they're like still hiking faster than me. And I'm like, respect.
I don't know, dude.
Like,
I've seen you like at least on Instagram. Like it seems like you've done some pretty like fast and intense hikes and shit. So I wouldn't sell yourself too short there.
Well, yeah. Well, see, the problem is I've always feel like I could have hiked the trail faster, but like my body just like wouldn't let me. But if I have to push it for like a weekend or like 2 days, like I can go.
Didn't you? There's just one. Sorry to cut you off there, but there's just one the other like not very long ago, like a couple weeks ago maybe, that I feel like I remember seeing on your Insta. It was something stupid. Like, does that ring a bell? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking. We did the Daytona Trail in New Jersey, which is like 54 miles. I don't know. The information on it's not very good.
Did you do it in one shot?
Yeah, we did it in like 18 hours.
Damn,
or something.
dude, that's fucking crazy. That's like ultra marathon. That's like borderline ultra marathon shit.
Yeah, because we didn't bring any like camping stuff or anything, and it's Hershey's friend's fault because like we wrestled in college, and so like he has a friend from home who also wrestles, and like wrestlers are nuts, and like we've just formed this little crew that like, you know, every couple months we just go out and like send it for a day and just kill ourselves. Like I didn't go on this one, but the same guys I was with, they did the Black Forest Trail in Pennsylvania, which is like 40 miles, like 8,000 vert. Pretty crazy trail. Like I've done it in 2 days and that almost broke me. And they did that in like, I think the one kid finished in 20 hours, and then Hershey and Cole finished it in like 23 and a half.
Damn. Dude, 23 hours straight of hiking.
Yeah, they're nuts.
Fuck,
and like I was supposed
crazy
to go on that, but I like broke my toe the week before backpacking with my dad. So I crewed for them. I was like driving the truck around, giving them food at the stops and stuff. But yeah, they enjoy pushing themselves like that. I'm like, can we just like go hike to a waterfall and drink beer sometime? Like, can we just enjoy ourselves?
I feel that for sure. Damn, that's crazy. I never realized how many like little trails in not even little trails, just like random, actually precisely the opposite, random longer-ish trails, as in like longer than just like a day hike for most people, trails there are in Pennsylvania. Like you think Pennsylvania, you don't exactly think of like, you know, like a bunch of like long distance hiking, but I feel like I'm not even going to be able to name them. A couple of them have been briefly mentioned on previous episodes before, but I feel like almost every time I pull up like YouTube or Facebook or something, I see like a new trail that exists in Pennsylvania that you could like backpack or through hike for a couple days or whatever, which is weird to me because it's Pennsylvania. It's not like, I'm not trying to just shit on Pennsylvania, but it just seems like not the place you think of when you think of like long distance hiking. I don't know.
Well, here's the problem is everybody hikes the AT, and then they come through the AT section in Pennsylvania and they hate it, and then they write off the state because the AT in Pennsylvania does kind of suck. There's parts that are fine, but there's like a lot, like the whole middle, I guess central northern part of the state, and then off to the west, I guess, is like it's all woods, like, and there's not mountains. It's like a plateau system. So like if you're hiking, your elevation doesn't come from like going up a mountain. It's like you climb up to the plateau. And
yeah,
then
that's exactly how I remember it being on the AT in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So like and there's not like you don't get there's some definitely really good views. Like I love hiking in PA, but it's not the same as the Whites. It's not the same as Colorado. But I don't know. I really love it. But probably just because I'm from here. But and there's a lot. You're like you said. There's a lot of trails you can explore. The problem is if you some of the ones that are not as well known, like you'll get out there and it'll say online that there's a trail, and it's like there's not a trail here. It's
Oh
all
no.
bushwhacking and like nettles, lots of stinging nettles in Pennsylvania.
Lots of
But
rattlesnakes too.
yeah, there's I. That's what like people like oh why do you like hiking in the winter? It's like well there's no snakes or bugs or stinging nettles, and that like having to worry about rattlesnakes is kind of it's like a thing you got to pay
Oh
attention
yeah,
to.
there's a shit ton of them over there.
So you can't listen to music because like you'll think you hear the rattlesnakes, or then you won't hear the rattlesnakes. And like I remember this one time when the first time I did the Black Forest Trail, I was like researching it, and I looked on Instagram for like the hashtag, and like the first picture is like just a pile of rattlesnakes breeding, and like that
Oh,
whole
God.
trip I was like freaking out, but we didn't see any that time.
Thank God. Yeah. What are some of the trails there? I remember a long time ago I had Frozen from Outdoor Adventures on here. It's like over
He's
a year
another
ago.
PA boy.
And he was talking about, I don't even remember the name of the damn trail. Something closer to Pittsburgh, I think. But like what are some of the and you mentioned a few of them at the top of the episode. What are some of the what are some of the littler through hikes in Pennsylvania that you've done?
I'm trying to remember. I know the one you're talking about near Pittsburgh, but I'm losing it
I
right
can't.
now.
Somebody's probably like screaming at their phone right now, being like, "It's this trail." I can't remember. I'll try to find it though. But what
Yeah.
are some of the ones that you've done?
That one you're talking about, I did a little bit of it when I was younger,
Oh,
but I didn't do the whole
you
thing.
did a part of it. You don't even remember the name.
But I don't remember. There's not a lot of views on it from what I remember. Like I remember just being like upset with my dad because like our cousins had come out and like there was no like cool water. That's what I love when I was little, was the water features. But there's no like cool views or cool water features. It was just like all woods, so I didn't really like it. But the other trails in Pennsylvania, the one like the old Loggers Path is like a 30-mile loop. That's like a great one to take people out, like if they're starting to backpack, because it's not too much elevation. The Black Forest Trail is a pretty tough one. That's a loop.
How long is that one?
42 miles.
That's so cool. There's like so many. There's like more. I hate to say it, but like there's more loops like that and like short little through hikes like that than in Pennsylvania than there is in Vermont, which I guess the states are not even comparable size wise, so it makes sense. But
I've noticed that though about
there's
like
a lot there.
hiking in like even New York and Vermont and like New Hampshire. There's not as many. You have these big parks and stuff, and you can piece your own loops together, but there's not like these dedicated backpacking loops as much.
Yeah.
But
I'm
my
trying
favorite
to-
trail I gotta give a shout out to in Pennsylvania is the Loyal Sock Trail, 60 miles near Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and that's a really great one because it's long enough that you really feel like you're on it. I did that right after I got off the AT. I went and did the Loyal Sock Trail with Hershey, but it's got like great views at the beginning, and there's like a really cool waterfall at the end, the Haystacks. It's like my favorite place in the world. I really love it. I was there this weekend actually, hiking in the snow there.
Oh, nice.
Just a little section of it, but yeah, I love the Loyal Sock Trail.
I just did a deep dive on Frozen's YouTube channel. I think it was the Laurel Highlands Trail.
Yes, that's it.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's another one too. Yeah, that's just crazy to me.
That one's cool because the shelters have fireplaces. So I'm like scheming up me and my sister might go try to hit that in February because we can make a fire in all the shelters, and that'd be really cool.
Damn.
So
That's
that is
badass.
definitely a good plug for that. That's like for me, it would be like a good winter trail.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, Pennsylvania, not a place you think of for hiking, clearly, but there's a lot there. That's cool. That's really cool. I got to go back to the AT thing because you said at the beginning you started. Did I hear January 1st?
New Year's Day.
So like, I don't know if you're probably not in any like the class of 2021 Facebook groups or whatever, but I am for some reason. And there was like this whole drama. I don't even know if it was drama, but just this whole discussion about a vlogger who had started and made it to like the bathroom. I don't even remember all the details. I didn't really watch that much of the video, so I'm not trying to just like shit on this guy, but he made it all the way to like the bathrooms at Newfound Gap, and this was like just a couple days ago, and then he like got like stuck in a snowstorm there and like decided to quit or some shit like that, and that just got me thinking even before this conversation about like people who start like mad early for thru hikes on the AT. So I'm gonna ask a really open-ended question. Just how was that starting so early? Like I wouldn't have ever considered starting that early. So yeah, how did that go? Obviously it went pretty well. You finished it, but yeah.
Yeah. So in the lead up to the trail, I was reading a lot, or not on the lead up, like a couple years, like when I first started getting really into backpacking as like a hobby, I was reading Jeff Garmier, Free Outside on Instagram. He did a calendar year Triple Crown, and he started the AT in February 1st. And he did the thing, went straight through. And I was following his blog as he was going north, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, it sounded so intense. He got like a crazy blizzard in the Smokies, and like, it just seemed like super badass. Like, I don't know. And that idea kind of, like, just kept playing in my mind and stuff. And there's definitely like an overcrowding issue, I guess. There's a lot of people on the AT when you start, and like, I didn't really go out in the woods to get away from people. So I was like, maybe it'd be cool to kind of be out there by myself. And a buddy from high school started with me, so we were planning this together. And yeah, we started January 1st. We flew down there. We had like a week of decent weather, and then it got cold. And I don't know, it was definitely probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, getting through the first 2 months of just like everything you got to be much more like aware of your system when you're in the cold like that. You got to have your filter next to you all the time, your batteries, your phone.
Yeah.
You got to sleep with your fuel if you want to make stuff in the morning, stuff like that. And then the worst is just like every morning putting on like frozen stiff boots, like or shoes. You have to unlace them, like loosen them all the way up every night before you go to bed, so you can like get your shoe in, and then like you hike a mile or two, and then you can tighten up your laces. But it's like, I had my like tear down system nailed, because like from the second you like leave your sleeping bag and like are in hiker mode, you're just going as fast as you can to get on the trail and warm up. And like there was some bitter cold, because like, and I probably could have done a better job of managing moisture and stuff, but it was like a lot of times like my hiking clothes were soaking wet every night, and like it's 10 degrees, 15 degrees, and you're putting on all wet clothes and like just hiking as fast as you can to get warm again. And like getting water is crazy because your hands are getting wet. Like I didn't filter a lot because I was just like, didn't feel like squeezing that freezing cold bottle. So it was pretty intense.
That's nuts, dude.
It was awesome to like see the trail in like a unique way. You get all the views because there's no leaves in the way. And you know, we'd be out there for like a week and not see anyone. And that was like, I didn't share a shelter till like Pennsylvania or Virginia, I forget.
Oh wow, jeez. So like the first half of the trail, almost.
Yeah, I guess the first night there was a guy. And then there was a night with these two old guys in the Smokies. But other than that, we didn't share a shelter.
For hundreds of miles, thousands of miles almost. Or not thousands, almost 8, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy, dude. So I understand then, like that aspect of starting so early. But I guess I feel like if I were to really not want to see other people, I would probably rather just go like Sobo than... deal with the winter.
That would have been smarter.
I mean, you made it still. Like, I'm not knocking it. It's like I just can't fathom that, because when I started, conditions were like pretty close to perfect, I would say. I got some bad weather later on and stuff, so it wasn't just like a cakewalk. But when I started, like, you know, I started late, so I started mid-May. So it's like, it was a little bit hot at that point, but it wasn't like the middle of the summer yet, so it wasn't like overwhelmingly hot, and you're up in the mountains and shit. We got a little bit of rain, but it wasn't that bad. And even when it was like raining a lot, it was still so warm that like it didn't even matter that much. Didn't have to worry about hypothermia or anything like that. So like conditions were about as good as I could have had them, and I was still like fucking freaking out at the start. So I can't imagine having like way worse conditions like that and dealing with like the shittiness of the cold, and also trying to wrap your head around like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be doing this for a long time. How did you like kind of deal with that mental aspect, I guess? Were you like thinking ahead at all, or were you really just taking it like day by day? Because I feel like, sorry, this is long. I know I'm kind of going on here, but
good.
Last thought. I feel like for me, like I would try to take things day by day, but when the conditions are bad like that, I feel like it would almost be the opposite would like help, because you need to think like, okay, these conditions are going to get better eventually. So I don't know. I just said a bunch of shit there. I won't even ask a question. Just what are your thoughts on that freaking garble? Is that a word?
Yeah, so yeah, probably.
I think everybody
knows
now.
But yeah, so when I was getting ready for the trail, one advice I read that was like really good was on the trek, it was like, write down why you're doing this before you go, aka like really understand why you're out there, and then you'll have something to kind of fall back on. And like I really hated my job. I really didn't like where my life was after college. I just wasn't really happy, and like I was picturing the trail as this like reset for me. And I'd known for how long I've been just anxious to get out there. I was like, you're out here now. Like, this is what you signed up for. This is what you get. You got to embrace it. And like, I had a ton of fun, just like, and there's a lot of times that were hard, but I had a ton of fun. And like, when there's 40, 50 mile an hour winds in the Roan Highlands and snow's blowing sideways, and I was just like, this is so badass. Like I'm living it. Like I'm doing something that's really hard, and I'm going to be really proud of this when I finish. And that's kind of just what I thought about. And that got me through, nearly freezing to death every morning, putting my wet clothes on.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's nothing better than like a 45-degree day when you've been like in the 20s for a week or two. Like, it's just so much joy of the sun, man. I really, really appreciate that stuff. I feel like now because of that experience. And I've done a lot of winter camping and stuff before.
So you're ready for it, or as ready as you can be, at least
gear wise, and like knowing how to use it. I definitely was ready to roll. And when I was a baby, my aunts would always like fight, like in quotes, about who got to hold me, because I was like so warm. Like I was such a warm baby, and like that's always been the case. Like I'm very like, I sweat a ton when I exercise and stuff. So I think I'm like genetically dispositioned a little bit toward that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. And that must be me too then, because I also sweat a shit ton when I exercise. I don't like the cold though. I feel like that's almost worse though, because then you're wetter, right? And then once you stop moving.
And like I suck at like, you're supposed to like change your layers and stuff as you go and make sure like you don't sweat out your gear. But I was just in my rain suit and fleece every single day, just like sweating it out, like just going for it.
Well, geez, hearing all this from you, it kind of puts in perspective like the NPT hike then, because those are like some of the worst conditions that I've ever hiked in. But it sounds like for you, it's gotten colder, and it's been worse, I guess. That's what it sounds like anyways.
Yeah, to be fair, like I'm that like the low, like earlier in that day before I met you, like I was very upset. Like I was very not happy.
That's just because you were probably hungover though, right?
A little bit. That was, we had a little resupply. But yeah, like I was just like so cold, and I was like, wow, I've already proved I could do this. Like, why am I doing this again? So it never gets like easy, but I don't know.
You've got a high tolerance for pain, I guess, or for cold at least.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. Starting in January. And you said you finished in July?
Yeah, July 4th.
So I
got the holidays.
Yeah, nice. So you like, not only did you have to hike through the cold then at the start, but you also had to hit like New England in like mud season, or like
Yeah.
in like black fly season,
Yeah,
which is
dude.
not as
Don't.
bad as the cold, like definitely not, but still like not the best conditions at all either. So it almost
Well,
sounds like
here
you got a little fucked around with the
I definitely
conditions.
timed it terribly. Like, and I'm so dumb. Like, I didn't have. I just was using a tarp the whole time. I just used the tarp, and like in the winter, I was just sleeping in all the shelters, and so you don't need a bug net. And like, I never picked up a bug net.
Oh my God, are
I
you
just went
serious,
through like
dude?
black fly season. Like this one day in New Hampshire, like I woke up and my one ear was like bleeding from the black flies. Like it was crazy. And like I looked on Amazon, like there's a $12 bug net, and I did buy it, but I could have just had that scent. Like I don't know. I guess I like suffering, or like I just wanted it to be as intense as possible.
Or
But I
you're
need
just
to
too
harness
lazy to
that
get
energy.
it.
Yeah, no, it was like I'm a very lazy, like for how much I hiked and stuff. I am a very lazy person, I feel like.
That's crazy, man. Oh, geez. Let's talk about rigging it a little bit, or rig. So, you kind of talked about like the origin story a little bit, but all right, I'm just gonna jump right in. So the first question I always think of when I'm like hearing about people who have made their own gear and stuff is like, what's just like the worst piece of gear that you've ever made, like the biggest failure when you're like making your own gear?
It was probably the first backpack I ever made. I sewed it up out of like stupid light materials, but I was just kind of practicing, and I had them left over from my quilt, and like I load up, and we were doing a section. Me and Hershey actually were doing a little bit hiking, and I think on the Loyalsock Trail, and we get to the trailhead, and I put my backpack on, and the one shoulder strap rips out. Like it just pops. It's like totally unusable. And
Oh
like
shit! Did you bring it back up? Like
I did. I was
Smart,
like,
okay.
I don't know. Like I'll like pack this in the car, and if at the last minute, if I want to change, I can. And so like luckily it was that, or I was gonna be like, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, you would have been
Um,
screwed.
but yeah, and that was that was an ugly pack, man. That was like, I'm like, I think I have it somewhere, but it was a start. But we've grown from there.
So you say who else is helping you with it?
So it's my buddy from college, David Padawarren. We did the trip to Peru together, and like when I was on that, I remember getting ready. It was me and a couple buddies went there, and they'd never really backpacked before too much. And I was all like, I had the Google Sheets doc shared, and I was putting my gear list on, making sure everybody was equipped. And like when we finally got there, and we start hiking, David was like, I get it now, younger. Like I get why you love this. Like I can see like you're thriving right now. I've never seen this out of you. Like
Oh,
that's
damn.
really cool. And then like when I hiked on the trail, he texted me. He's a computer scientist or computer engineer, whatever, I don't know. But he designed like an app for me I could text it, and then I could text a number, and then it would post a blog directly to like a website. So I didn't need internet to blog, and he like created that whole mechanism and set it up for me. So that was cool. And we would talk a lot on the trail, and as I was getting to the end, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I just gone through like a breakup, so I was like, what do I do? Like, what's the next step in life? Like I knew I wanted to start this gear company, but I had to get a job first. And he
Yeah.
texted me and was like, hey man, like I know you're serious about starting a gear company. I would love to be involved. I would love to help out. And he's a really smart dude. He computer and electrical engineering degrees, and like I was like, heck yeah, let's do this. And we hike, and he's a real big mountain biker and stuff. And he texted me, come out to Colorado, and we'll get this going. So that's what I did after getting off the trail and like messing around for like a month or two. I went out to Boulder, and I was living in his in the basement of where he was at. And so yeah, we run the gear company now together, and I do like the prototyping, and like the testing and stuff, and he tests the gear too. But he's kind of been doing a lot of, interacting with suppliers and stuff as we kind of think about like releasing a product line and stuff.
Have you guys, have you released anything that people can buy yet?
Not yet. We had, I had fanny packs for sale. I sold like 100 of them, but we sold those out, and it's just like a regular fanny pack with a zipper.
That sounds promising though.
Yeah, it was, and they work. Like I haven't had any returned yet because they broke. But our bigger project that I've been working on is trying to design like a modular backpack system where you can have one backpack for all your activities, and and you like can take pockets off and put them back on. You can change the straps, stuff like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, so I was using one of the prototypes on the Northville Placid Trail in like through hiker mode, but I go skiing with my pack all the time, and I think it'd be good for like rock climbing or
even just like day hiking, maybe. Take some of the pockets off, I guess. That's a really cool. I've never heard anything like that. I never thought about that before. I like that.
It borrows from like kind of like the military bag design and stuff, but it's still unique. I haven't seen it anywhere, and I spend way too much time probably not too much time, but I spend a ton of time researching other packs and following everybody on Instagram and Reddit and stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of a white whale of a project that people like. I think the general consensus is that like modular bags aren't like good enough at anything to be like, they're not good enough at a specific thing to be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot kind of tacky ones out there that like they say they're modular, but like there's like 2 pockets you can take off or put on. It's like not really like my system. I'm kind of trying to make it like Legos, where you could take the pieces and put them different ways, and depending on how you want to rig it up for your adventure. And then also like take it to work and have like a gym set up, a laptop sleeve, stuff like that. So that's like the goal, and I've been working on it for just about a year now, and I finally, I like it. I hiked the Northville Placid Trail with it. I've done a lot of hiking and skiing with them, and it's working out. So we're looking to make the next steps to like, we got approved for a Kickstarter in May on just the fanny pack component of the system. So it'll be a fanny pack that you can attach to your bike. You can use it as a fanny pack, a chest pack. You can attach it to this one won't be applicable yet, but I can use it as like the brain of my backpack.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't released the backpack yet. But I think like theoretically you could, like we tested on my buddy's Osprey Exos, and like it can go on the top. There's a way to attach it and stuff. So it could be used on other packs.
Interesting.
So yeah, we're launching a Kickstarter in May on that, and then we're gonna, from what we learned from that, and grow from that, we're gonna release the whole backpack system on there.
Nice.
The fanny pack's just easier to do first because it's less involved, and like you don't have to pick like what attachments you're gonna release. But I think with the backpack, it'll be a really cool system that'll be useful. I didn't want to make like the same backpack that everyone else makes.
I was gonna say, because that's actually a question I was gonna ask you, because like there's so many, and this wasn't even the case just a few years ago, but it feels like now every time I open Instagram, there's like a new like ultralight backpack company, and so that's kind of what I was gonna ask about, is like what you were gonna do to try to kind of differentiate yourself a little bit. And that sounds cool, honestly. Oh no, you're good. Go ahead.
So like it's all the ultralight backpacks like Palante, HMG, Light AF, Superior Wilderness Designs, all those companies, like they're kind of just taking Ray Jardine's backpack design that he designed in like the 80s, where it's like one compartment and then you have 2 water bottle pockets and then a mesh back pocket for drying. And people change like shoulder strap thickness in different pockets, but I don't know, it's all kind of the same. And I thought it'd be hard to get into that market because, like you said, every time you open Instagram, there's a new little pop-up shop. And I honestly, I would love to make backpacks like that. I think those are awesome. That's the kind of the one I took on the AT, was that setup.
It works. I mean, that's the reason everybody's using it,
But I wanted to do something that's like scalable and would have like a future beyond just that. Like I wanted to be able, and I think with this, there's a lot of, I can still design a lot of stuff after I release the main pack. And so I don't know, there's just more in it then. And it's been a really, I mean, it's taken me forever to really get it down. But it's been a really like rewarding process kind of going through that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear that. I love to hear about the self-starters, the grind, dude. That's sick. I wish you said you were using some of it when you did the NPT. I wish I had paid more attention. I don't even know if you actually, I can't remember if you told me or not. I think you did while we were out there.
I like mentioned it in passing.
Yeah, just briefly.
But I didn't want to. I knew you were Kyle Hates Hiking because I saw your food bag, but I didn't want to like say anything about it because I didn't really watch your YouTube that much. And I was like, I don't want to just like bombard this guy with like, oh well, you're a YouTuber, here's my pack.
I've been recognized 3 times ever, and one of them was Hershey, so it wouldn't have been a big deal. But I understand too.
I didn't want to be all up in your face about it. So, but yeah, I took it on. That was in the thru hiker setup, so like nice thick shoulder pads. I actually have like kind of a running vest style harness I've been developing that I really like, that I think is unique too. And then I had like a back pocket and then the water bottle pockets on the side. So it was like in this, like in the backpack I was just talking about, like it was that backpack, but just on the modular system. So I could pop all those pockets off and take it for whatever. So
I wish I had paid closer attention, although I guess in the state that I was in, I was just in like, try not to fucking quit this trail mode. So I probably wasn't I wasn't really in like nerd out about gear mode like I am now, but, that's cool though, dude. That's cool. We're kind of getting towards the end here, so we'll get into the story in just a second. I feel like I should ask you another question about the gear though. So like you honestly, you might have answered this next one at the beginning briefly, but like, can you just like list or like go through like all the different things you've made at this point, even things that like you're not gonna pursue? Just like, I'm just curious, more just in terms of like personally, like the things that you've tried to make at this point. So both successes and failures or any of that stuff. What's that journey been like?
Yes, I started with a synthetic overquilt. That was like my first project. That actually, I use that on the Appalachian Trail. I still use it as my part of my cold weather system as my overquilt. It's ripping up a little bit, but that's what tenacious tape is for. So I made that. Made a couple failed backpacks that I didn't like. From there, I made rain pants. I made rain mitts. I made a puffy jacket for my friend. That was really hard. Took me like 4 days of like after work working till like 12 at night sewing, and then like but it was really warm. And then let's see what else. I made hammock, but I don't know. Hammocks are reckless because like if they fail you fall.
You're fucked, yeah.
So I don't use that one really. I modified a bug net I got. After the AT, I was like, I need a bug net, so I got one, and then I added a zipper to it. Let's see, I made a bunch of fanny packs. I made a wallet. Trying to think what else I'm forgetting here. The thing I made recently that I love is I made a pair of ski bibs. Because I didn't have any. I really wanted some ski bibs because everybody in like the bibs on the mountain looks cooler than me. And then I was looking online and they're expensive, so I ordered a pattern and made them myself. That's probably what I'm most proud of right now, but that's probably recency bias. And I made a tarp, like a 9x9 tarp that I took out last weekend for the first run. I made the tarp leap. And I'll probably do a tent next. Probably do like a duplex clone or something like that. Maybe something with a removable bug net.
So you haven't done a tent yet?
No.
That's sick.
Because I'm always scared that it'll leak.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get wet.
That's awesome. That's awesome, dude. Well, you're gonna have to keep me updated. I'll have to have you back on sometime after you've built the tent. I'm pretty curious about that, honestly, and we'll hear if you got soaked or not. I'm sure you'll be fine, especially now that you just have more experience like building shit too.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely much better sewer than when I started. Like
that must have been kind of intimidating when you first started, just being like the very first time you like all right, I'm gonna try to fucking like make something like with a sewing machine. Like I know nothing about how any of that construction works, so at least it seems intimidating to me. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and like there's like these tensioning stuff you got to get right on your machine that I didn't know about at all. I just figured, oh, I'd put it on 5 or whatever and go, and like my stitches would like look wrong, and I would have no idea how to like change it or anything. So just keep sewing. And yeah, and then like the job I've been working lately is like as a painter and like a carpenter, and I've actually gotten a lot of good tricks from being like working as a carpenter on how to like build stuff and make it look nice and stuff. So that like I don't know, it's kind of it's a process. It's like anything else. You just, if you spend time with it, eventually you'll get pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I've been plugging away.
Nice, man. That's cool to hear. Let's do some story time. End of the episode. I gave you a decent like a C plus B minus on the heads up for my part. So it's not the worst. I've done worse.
Yeah, it wasn't like right before. So
yeah, it wasn't
good.
like exactly. So you said you had a story, yeah?
Yeah, so I got a good one. So this was towards the end of my Appalachian Trail hike. I'm in the 100-mile wilderness, and I'm trying to haul ass through there. I did it in like 3 days. Like I'd been kind of slow in New Hampshire and Maine. Like they really beat me up like in southern Maine. And I really wanted to finish on the 4th because my dad and my sister were able to meet me on the 4th at Katahdin, and like after that wouldn't have worked out as well. So I'm trying to get there. I'm waking up at like 5 and hiking till like 9 and just ripping it. And like the night before, like my trekking pole broke, and then the next day, like my one strap on my backpack started coming off, and luckily somebody had a safety pin I could borrow, and I like stitched it up. And like I wasn't like at the end of the hike, man, I wasn't eating right. Like I was just having Snickers bars, just like all I could stomach. Like I was like a car coming into like the end of the race, and it's just like spitting gears and stuff. Like I was just coming into the end. But I'm walking through the 100-mile wilderness, and I remember just checking my gut hooks, and I had like 50 miles to go. Like I remember noticing that. Mm-hmm. And I'm walking through all the mosquitoes and stuff, and I see this family of bears up ahead. Like it's a baby and like, or a mom and like 2 cubs, I think. I don't remember how many cubs there were. I was worried about the mom. So I do what you do. You yell and holler and bang stuff, and hope they go away. And I'd seen a bear in New Jersey that was pretty close, and like I did that and it went away, and I wasn't like too worried. I've interacted with them in the backcountry, and like I'm not really afraid of a black bear necessarily. So I do that, and I do all my yelling, and it wanders or kind of goes away. They ran away. So I keep hiking, and like, I don't know, a couple minutes later, the bear's back, but she's like angry this time.
Oh no.
And I'm like, oh man. So I start yelling and doing my thing, and all of a sudden it starts running towards me. And it probably got to like 10, 15 feet away, and like it gets up on its hind legs and is like making bear noises, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like walking backwards trying to get away, and it keeps like every time I like go back a little, it comes up a little bit. And I was like, I had the thought like, oh, it's marking its territory, like it's trying to scare you. And I had this like moment of like, no, like I'm not going to be pushed around. Like I'm almost in this trail. I've been through so much. I just freaking broke my trekking pole. My pack's falling apart. Like got to meet my parents. Like I'm not going to get pushed around. And so I just like grabbed this stick on the ground. It was like a decent sized like log thing. And I just screamed as loud as I could, and I ran at it. And turned around and took off into the woods real fast. And like, I don't know, I was on cloud 9 after that. I was like, I just felt like such a tough guy.
Oh
and
man, that's crazy.
I was like, you picked the wrong hiker to mess with. Like, I'm not gonna back. I don't know what I would have done if I had gotten to the bear. This was all like instincts and like caveman taking over. So like, I didn't really have a plan. I had a knife somewhere in my pack, but it was not readily available. But I was like, this bear's just messing with me, and I'm not gonna be messed with. So I ran it off, and I was like skipping basically for the rest of the day.
Damn, that's crazy. Oh, it's been a while since we've had a good bear story on here, I feel like. Fuck yeah. Well, I'm glad it turned out okay. I'm glad you showed that bear who's boss. Oh yeah. That's fucking awesome. Dude, thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
We're going to have to do another one for sure. Why don't you plug I mean, I know you got your Instagram, but I know you got the gear Instagram too. So websites, plug all that stuff. Plug whatever you want to plug. The floor is yours.
Cool. So my personal Instagram is at the real J Youngs. So it's the real and then the letter J Youngs. And then my Rigging It Gear's Instagram is Rigging It Gear, RIGGINITGAR. I try to I don't know, I'm not very good at social media. I'm still working on it, but I try to post like when I go on hikes and when I'm testing gear, when I'm selling stuff. I try to get some content out there. So it's not like the curated best stuff, but it's I feel like it's real, and you kind of get an idea of what's going on with the company. We have a YouTube channel. If you just Google Rigging It Gear, or look up Rigging It Gear, we have a couple videos from last year of me just kind of talking about like what I want to do with the pack prototype. We're gonna try to, as we ramp up to this Kickstarter, we're gonna try to put out more YouTube content, and I do want to start a podcast, make it the Rigcast. But I've recorded one episode and I hated it. So we'll go back to the drawing board on that one.
You got to start somewhere. That's what happened with my very first YouTube video. I filmed it and I never looked at it, never edited it, didn't even take it off my camera or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, it's like sewing. It's like anything, just got to do it a couple times and then eventually you'll get the hang of it.
Exactly.
I just got to take that first step.
So you'll get it.
But I'll have the links to that, and then our Kickstarter. I think we have a pre-launch page. I don't know how to get to that yet, but I'll make sure it's on our link tree on the Rigging It Gear page and my page too. And if you go to the Rigging It Gear page, we have a bonfire sales campaign or whatever where you can get some Rigging It merchandise. I got like a crew neck and a t-shirt on there. So if you want to rep Rigging It, but all this is kind of building towards our Kickstarter in May. And if you can find your way to my Instagram, you can find your way to everything else from there. I feel like I think we're gonna start like a Twitter too, but we'll see about that. But yeah.
Nah, fuck Twitter. Twitter sucks.
I mean, no one's going on Twitter for hiking stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right.
But yeah,
dude, thank you so much. This is a really fun episode. That's gonna do it, everybody. Thanks for listening, and have a good one.